Lockridge, the pastor at First Baptist Church here in Moorhead, and this is a conversation with First Baptist Church. Joining us today is our friend Drew Henderson. Drew, thanks for being with us today, and we'll start with, where are you from?
Okay. I grew up in a little town northeast of Cincinnati called Goshen, little farming community, and that's where I grew up until I came to Moorhead.
And what brought you to Moorhead?
Came to school here back in '81. They had the programs that I wanted, physics and math, and started working here actually before I graduated in the computing services department and just never left.
Well, tell us a little bit about what it was like to work in that department.
Starting off in the early days, it was pretty small. I think there was maybe 10 or 12 people at most in the entire department. And for the most part, we were all pretty close. Hung out a lot together after work hours and on weekends and stuff. And then as it grew and people got families and stuff, we all started spending less and less time together. But overall, it was pretty enjoyable.
Well, now that you are officially retired, how do you spend your time?
Probably as busy as I was before. Sometimes I tell people I shifted into a career in volunteerism. Of course, I do work here at First Baptist Church. I also do work with the Moorhead Theater Guild, work with a bunch of great guys in transferring food to Christian Social Services for their distribution. Occasionally, not as often as I should, but occasionally do some work with Habitat and with some other organizations in town.
You also do some continued learning stuff too. Tell us about that.
Yes, the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or OLLI, nationwide group, and there's a chapter in out of UK, and they have a branch here in Moorhead. And so I'm on the board and have been for several years. And I've taught a number of classes for them, some technology classes, history of science classes, things like that. And that's really rewarding, and its goal is to keep people 50 and older intellectually and socially engaged, which is a little bit of a challenge right now towards the end of March in 2020.
Well, that's true. So when you are not volunteering, as you probably are not doing as much now, what do you do for interests and hobbies?
I like role-play gaming, board gaming, things like that. I read a lot, probably at least 30 or 40 books a year. Do a little bit of woodworking, some work around the house, not nearly as much as I should, but that's what it is. That's probably most of it.
One of the fascinating parts of our conversations with First Baptist Church folks is their faith journey. So could you tell us a little bit about your faith journey, specifically where it began and maybe some of the people that helped to influence you at the beginning of your faith journey?
Okay. Through most of my life, we really didn't attend church that much. I have memories of going to the church my mom grew up in Spring Valley, Ohio, a pretty conservative church. And then for some reason we stopped going there when I was little. And then occasionally to a church here, a church there, but nothing ever regular. When we go visit my paternal grandparents in Tennessee, we usually went to church every Sunday there. But it really didn't start until I started coming to First Baptist here in Moorhead.
And who brought you here? Did you just visit one time?
It was Jay and Nancy Flippin. They had moved in next door to me in 2001, and actually I think that Easter they invited me and said, "Hey, we're doing breakfast for Easter, you should come." So I came, and throughout the next year I would come occasionally with them, and then more and more often just because I kind of enjoyed coming here. A lot of the churches I went to when I was younger was the fire and brimstone kind of services, where if you weren't terrified when you walked out the door, the preacher hadn't done his job right. And the feeling here was more expressing God's love and how we should have love for each other. And so it was rather uplifting and feeling good coming out And that was kind of a new experience for me.
Well, besides the uplifting message, what else keeps you here? Why have you stayed all these years?
Because Dave Manor threatened to beat me up if I left. Obviously, that part will be edited out for. The people here, I mean, I've made a lot of really close friends here. I enjoy the services because, again, it's still, even though I'm on my third preacher here, or actually fourth and fifth preacher here, or maybe sixth, I still come out of the services feeling uplifted. We're not so narrowly focused that we can't have people of various denominations, other backgrounds here, and we all love each other. I mean, we've got people with a Methodist background, with a Lutheran background, obviously a lot of people who were originally Southern Baptist in here, and it's less about the method of how people pray or how they were raised, that this is the way to do it, and more focused on what I feel is the bigger message Jesus had for us. It's about loving each other and helping each other. And I think that's the primary focus here, and that's what I enjoy about it.
You mentioned Jay and Nancy Flippin earlier. Are there other people who have been integral in your life here at this church?
Yeah, I've made a number of very close friends here. J.D. and Diana Reeder, of course, Larry and Lenore Dixon, Dave Manor, Dee and Tom Biebighauser, just a lot of people. The guy who was pastor here when I first started, Don Mantooth, and his family, think the world of them. And if I tried to name everybody, I know I would be forgetting somebody. So I'll just leave it at that.
That's understandable. You do quite a bit for us. Again, getting back to your volunteerism, tell us about your role here at the church and the things you oversee and take part in.
Well, I first got involved with the some of the technology stuff when Don Mantooth came and said, one guy's wanting to spend more time sitting with his wife. Could you go up and help out with the camera stuff? And so I said, sure, I can do that. Sometimes there's the attitude of, oh, you were in technology and this is electronic stuff, so you know how to do this. It's like, it's not all the same. But so got involved with that and working with some really good people in that as well. So as things have needed to evolve, I've gotten more and more involved with it just because I have a little bit of a technology bent and can try and figure it out.
We are thankful for that. If you meet someone who is entirely unfamiliar with our congregation, how would you describe this church?
I would describe it as open and welcoming. Again, we're not so focused on this is the way to worship God and any other way is the wrong way. It's more about the people coming together, enjoying being together, the fellowship, and focusing on loving God and loving each other.
Lastly, tell us something about yourself, something interesting that most people don't know about you.
Probably the thing that most people don't know is, for those of you old enough to remember the show Car Talk that was on PBS, I actually won the puzzler on that one year, back around 93 or something like that. So I've got a little certificate at home from Click and Clack the Tappet Brothers, where they told me that I'd won it, and the $25 gift certificate for the Car Talk shop.
That's great. Well, Drew, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for opening up about yourself and for helping others see and understand what this church is all about. That was Drew Henderson. This was a conversation with First Baptist Church, and I'm Alex Lockridge.